Happy St. Patrick's Day Eve, everybody. It is the All About the Birds bi-weekly report. As D. Drippy says, we are in this John. It is free agency season, everybody. Free agency is sexy. I am excited for it. That's why I decided to podcast from my bedroom tonight, having absolutely nothing to do with the fact that my house is getting repaired, even here at 9:23 at night. But we are up in here. I am Chip at Chip for the Birds, joined by Johnny U 9322. Hopefully my Wi-Fi holds up. Hopefully my Wi-Fi does something, much like Howie Roseman is doing just enough right now, just a little bit. He's doing just a little bit. Johnny, what are your thoughts so far on free agency happening up in this business?
Free agency, it's always a fun time. You get to look around the NFL. You get to see teams that are going to spend tons of money to try to, make the rosters a lot better. You got teams releasing players. For me, it's all these possibilities. I think it's one big thing is you look at all the possibilities and you look at your division and you look at the teams and seeing their team, or they're not improving the team by, acquiring Carson Wentz, which I'm sure we'll talk about that.
We might discuss it.
We might discuss it. There's a lot of goings on in this past week, and it's fun. It's enjoyable. You hear all these rumors going around, all these players, all these, got recruiting. It's a fun time. It is very, very fun time. And I know JD's not too happy about his Steelers adding Trubisky.
It's pronounced Trubisky now. Trubisky.
So again, it's fun. Eagles added a pass rusher. They signed a couple of their own guys, but there's a lot of goings on with them. That's not the only stuff that they did. They didn't sign any other free agents as of yet. They can drop, they want to. They can sign a free agent while we're on the air, so we can drop it and get some breaking news. But as of right now,
we don't.
And I'm going to start off right now. It is talking about free agency. The Eagles made a free agent splash from Temple Zone, a local kid drafted by Arizona, played last year with the Carolina Panthers, has had double-digit sacks the last 2 seasons. He's used as, he's an edge rusher. To me, it fits what the Eagles need. Eagles had 29 sacks last year. Absolutely dreadful. You need to upgrade your pass rush, and this is one step in the right direction. And I still don't think you adding Haason Reddick, you don't need to draft an edge rusher. You still need to add for depth purposes and get the next players. But what do you think of the signing of Haason Reddick?
I am so very excited about the signing of Haason Reddick. I think it was the right move. As soon as they cut him, I realized, hey, this is a guy who wants to come back to Philadelphia. He's, Temple player. It was the right move. It was a lot of money. But you know what? He's a young kid. He's a successful kid. He is a guy who, when I look at free agency, when I look at an offseason, I judge it by, are the Eagles or whoever a better team than they were when the season ended to when the season starts? Did they improve? Adding Haason Reddick, that's an improvement. You cannot deny that adding Haason Reddick has made your team worse. Adding Haason Reddick and eventually getting rid of Derek Barnett makes your team better. Adding Haason Reddick and getting rid of Alex Singleton makes your team better.
Yeah, no, it's true. You want to be able to add these, impact players, because Haason Reddick's to be taking over the role of, Jannard Avery played that Sam position, and it didn't work out.
He did an okay job, but he played in every game, but he also didn't make a difference.
Exactly, and Haason Reddick is going to make a difference, and it puts the one thing that I saw and I love. People want to say, oh, they don't run a 3-4, they run a 4-3. They're going to be running a lot of different things. Jonathan Gannon's they're going to be able to give him a lot better of a personnel package, a lot better of personnel on his side of the ball than they had last year. They can run like a 5-2 type of scheme, which you don't play with 3 linebackers a lot. So a 5-2, essentially, you can have Haason on the outside, BG next to him, and then you can have Hargrave and Cox and then Sweat. That's pretty formidable. Now, again,
it's a good defensive front, but you still have to build the middle part of the defense.
Absolutely.
Your linebacking core needed an overhaul. And right now, look, Haason Reddick is great, but you did get rid of, whether you like it or not, your leading tackler from last 2 seasons, right? And you didn't go after a guy like a Miles Jack, who I thought would have done phenomenally in our defense. You still need more impact players.
And that's a big thing. There are still very talented linebackers out on the market that you can sign. And Alex Singleton was not tendered. If you guys don't know, with a restricted free agent, you tender him, you have to pay him a certain amount. The only one that was tendered was Nate Herbig, and it was $2.4 million. They're not going to pay that to Alex Singleton. So him, Boston Scott, they both weren't tendered. Greg Ward and Andre Chachere, they signed 1-year deals. So Chachere is more of a special teamer, which with him.
So's Greg Ward. So's Greg Ward.
Well, yeah, exactly. And again, you still have to fill your roster out, but these guys could also get cut, and then it doesn't really hurt you as well. So those other guys, don't get me wrong. Alex Singleton, unfortunately, he can return. He could sign a lesser deal and come back. But again, he's a 4th linebacker and a special teamer. That's basically it. When you have him playing, starting, and it showed you last year, it was tough. Once Davion Taylor got hurt, and again, Davion Taylor is another wild card. What is he going to be this year? If you're not on the field, it's not going to help. So they still need to upgrade that position. I would love to see them add a free agent. And
Darren's right here. We definitely need a corner.
Darren is correct there. We do need a corner. We need a cornerback, a veteran corner, because they have a lot of youth. But again, you just don't know with all these guys, all these corners that they got last year. You really don't know. And the safety position, I think, is a major need. All these safeties are going off the board. We still have a few guys that are left, but again, you need to be able to shore up that position. Marcus Epps played very, very well last year. But again, you have Marcus Epps and Kayvon Wallace right now. Those are your safeties. That's not what you want to be putting out on opening day.
Listen, and again, Darren is all over the secondary, and I agree. Patrick Peterson, he mentioned something tonight on the NFL Network about, hey, maybe I want to come to Philadelphia. I would love that. Xavier Rhodes, another great player. But the best safety in free agency right now isn't even getting talked about. And I am currently running a Twitter poll, and I actually want to talk about this, right? So I am currently running a Twitter poll on my page at TripleThreatBets that asks, Tyrann Mathieu is still available, right? He is the best safety available. He was a best safety, one of the best safeties in football last year. After 148 votes. So it's it is an official certified vote.
It is.
It's 64-36. And I want to ask you, Johnny, why do you think it's so close, and where do you fall on this? Should Tyrann Mathieu be an Eagle right now?
I'd sign him.
I would sign him.
You look at what he does on a defense, and it's just, to me, he brings that, that Malcolm Jenkins-esque type of leadership role to the back end of the defense. And, don't get me wrong, I love Rodney McLeod, and I would be all for re-signing Rodney McLeod and signing Tyrann Mathieu and having him and Epps, and then maybe drafting a safety. But Mathieu is a guy on the back end of your defense. He's 29. He'll be 30 years old. So I'm not saying sign him to a 4 or 5 year deal, maybe a 2-3 year deal at the most. I think it needs to happen. They need to upgrade this defense. They need a guy like Tyrann Mathieu to be able to help you in the back end. And you don't have much out there right now. And
you need difference makers.
You do.
You need difference makers. The Eagles defense did what they could last year, right? They did what they could last year, but the fact of the matter is that there were not a lot of players. Look, Darius Slay had a great season, but he had nobody to help him on the other side. This team did not have a lot of players that changed the course of games on defense. And maybe that's part of the reason why Gannon was so timid about everything, right? Gannon played a very timid style of defense.
There is something with, Steven Nelson. He did his job. He did okay. But the thing was, I know Gannon wanted to play a lot more man coverage. You couldn't play man coverage with Steven Nelson because he wasn't going to be able to do it. So they had to play a lot more zone. They had to do a lot of different things than they wanted to do. Now, adding a guy like Haason Reddick and being able to play more man coverage, getting pressure on the quarterback is going to help the back end of the defense. So
correct.
For me, getting a corner, and we'll talk about it when we get to some under the radar guys that we had on 2 weeks ago. We can still talk about it. Some of the guys are still out there, but again, for me, it's just, you need to be able to get a player for the back end of that defense, a leader. He's not 32, 33 years old. He's 29. He'll be 30, when the season starts and everything. So for me, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. And I do want to bring up something that Don brought up. But he did ask, do you see any other signings for the Birds, or do they wait to make moves after the draft? So for me, I think they're going to have other signings. But again, the one thing that I mentioned in our Twitter group chat, don't be surprised if they add a few guys who've been released, because I think what Howie wants to do, especially going into next year, having guys like McLeod, like Anthony Harris, Steven Nelson, Derek Barnett, all these guys who are free agents who can sign with other teams. I think what Howie may want to do is be able to get one or two compensatory picks for next year's draft, which there's a whole different type of formula like that. But I think that they're going to make some signings, but don't be surprised if they sign some guys who've been recently released.
And some of those guys that have been recently released are sign worthy. But the Eagles right now need a ton, right? And that's why, look, we haven't mentioned the name yet. We know that at some point today or tomorrow, probably, the Deshaun Watson thing is going to be settled, right? It's going to be settled. I am hoping to all goodness that it is not he is going to become a Philadelphia Eagle, because the Eagles are not a quarterback away. There are other positions on the football field, and they have to fill them. Jalen Hurts long-term is not the answer. We know that. But while you're building the rest of it, here's the other telltale sign for me that Jalen Hurts is going to be the quarterback for this team. Jason Kelce doesn't come back to this team if they have another different quarterback.
Yeah. No, Jason Kelce said he had so much fun. And, I know people are starting getting out of sorts with, they're paying a 34-year-old center $14 million. And, to me, he's an all-pro. He was an all-pro last year.
And they made him the number one paid center in football, rightfully so.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So all these people who are talking about the Deshaun Watsons, we could have gotten Russell Wilson for that. No. You have to figure out other things first, right? Like Darren just said, we need another receiver. There's some big names out there. Julio Jones is out there. Juju Smith-Schuster is kind of out there too.
You have Juju out there. You have Julio Jones. Jarvis Landry is still out there. He was recently released. You have guys like, Zach Pascal and, maybe some not sexy names. But again.
But I'm going to be honest here. You need Allen Robinson. That's the other one I forgot.
Yeah,
Thank
Allen
you, Darren.
Robinson.
But here's the thing. You need another sexy name, because you saw what bargain basement wide receivers look like with Jalen Reagor and J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Quez Watkins should not be the number 2 receiver on this team. You need a possession guy that can go out there, catch a ball in the middle of the field and take a hit, and also can run 50 yards downfield past a guy.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I do think they need another name now, or another guy. Like, again, I think earlier this week or late last week, the Eagles were close to executing a trade for Calvin Ridley.
Correct.
But again, Atlanta pulled out and didn't tell the Eagles.
They did the right thing, by the way.
Oh, no, absolutely. And again, adding a player like that makes your offense so much better. And I feel like the Eagles do need to upgrade at the offense. And don't be surprised if they sign a running back. Don't be surprised. Just don't be surprised with things that they do on the offense side. They do need to add another receiver, because I don't really know if Jalen Reagor is going to be here when the season starts. I
don't see how he possibly could be. I don't if you're having conversations for a guy like Calvin Ridley, can you really take another season-long gamble with Jalen Reagor?
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Yeah.
I like it though. I like it.
Thank
It
you.
was, it was a
Thank
good
you.
one.
I was looking for the setup. But honestly, like all jokes aside, but I have to ask you this question.
Okay.
With the current state of the Eagles quarterback room, are we going to be able to attract some of these big name wide receivers? Because you do not have a quarterback that can make you your money for all of your bonuses and incentives. You just don't.
See, now a lot of people got up in arms with DJ Chark signed a 1-year deal with the Detroit Lions.
A lot of money he signed for, by the way.
And what?
Didn't he sign for a good amount of money too?
He signed for, I think, $10 million. 1 year, $10 million. Now it wasn't the Dougie P dishing out tons of money to all these players.
Yo, I want to get into that in a second. We will get
into that. But you're not going to get a receiver on a prove it deal with the Eagles, in my opinion, just because I could see them going. Like I said, I could see them going after a guy like Zach Pascal and something along the lines of that. Getting a Zach Pascal and then going in the draft and then drafting somebody. I can definitely see them doing that. Now I know there's not. A lot of people don't want to. They don't want to say, "Oh, let's draft another receiver," because they don't want to waste another pick. But you get into the second round and there's a number of names there, why not? But if you're getting a veteran, but they still need to add a veteran. They needed to add a veteran receiver last year, and they didn't.
They did, and Kirk is right. Eagles need to sign an Allen Robinson or Julio Jones. Yes, they do. And then Anthony's saying here, I don't think we get either Robinson or Juju. We can get an average wide receiver in Pascal from the Colts. I agree with all of that. Here's one thing that I really need to say though. I will be one of the first people that will just absolutely bash the hell out of Howie Roseman. But Howie Roseman had a really, really good season last year. He did. I still do not trust Howie Roseman in the draft room. I do not do it. And to have these 3 first-round picks scares the hell out of me. I do not think that Howie Roseman is able to evaluate talent.
Now, last year's draft, I'll say that was a good draft.
Absolutely.
Again, and again, if you can build off of that, that's the thing is you have to be able to build off of that. And I mentioned that last year about, this draft and the year before that draft and this new coaching staff being able to get some of these guys to be able to be those building type of blocks. And, you have the guys like Jordan Mailatas and Dallas Goedert, Avonte Maddox. You have some players, Josh Sweat, but again, you need to keep building off of that. And that's why I don't think, don't get me wrong. If you get a top flight player or a quarterback, yeah, it may be all fun, but again, it may not be fun if you're not winning. You can have a talented player, but again, if you don't have the pieces around because you had to dish out all these different players and picks and everything, you don't have the young players to be able to build around these players. That's why
developing them.
Exactly. And give Jalen 2022, add some pieces around him. I know some people, I saw something today and it literally, I laughed because it was hilarious. People saying that the Browns are going to be getting rid of Baker Mayfield. The Eagles
No.
And I said,
no,
absolutely not. If you wanted to get rid of a prima donna crybaby like you did a couple of years ago, I don't think Baker Mayfield is the player you want, to be on your roster because it's kind of like the same thing.
I don't necessarily agree about that as far as the personality goes. I mean, Baker Mayfield, he wrote this letter to the Cleveland fan base because they're having to have a conversation with Deshaun Watson. And, I do get that. NFL is a business. But I just think for me, you look at Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield, and it is one of the most lateral comparisons I've ever seen. Undersized guy, questionable arm strength, questionable accuracy. Baker Mayfield doesn't lead teams to win games a lot of the time. They rely on a great run game and good wide receivers.
Yeah.
And a really solid coach. So making that move, it's pointless to me. It is an identical lateral move.
Yeah. No, thank you. And again, we started off the show talking about the Eagles free and C edition. See, look, I changed my
I caught it.
See, yeah. So Haason Reddick, and 3 years, 45 million, 30 million guaranteed. I guess the deal can go up to 49.5 million in escalators and all that good fun stuff. But 11 or more sacks last 2 years, 23 and a half since 2020. So 2 years. And I think actually with that, he's like top 5 in the league in the last 2 years in sacks. And he's going to turn 28 in September. So, he's not super young. He's not 25 years old. But again, I feel like he's a late bloomer because Arizona, they misused him so badly until his last year. They misused him, and they finally used him the way he was supposed to be used. And he had over 10 sacks. Last year, he goes to Carolina, has over 10 sacks, and he inks a pretty good contract. And again, I think he took a little bit of a discount, in my opinion. If you look at the other contracts that went out, now I'm not talking about Von Miller's monstrosity of a 6-year, $120 million contract, but a guy like Emmanuel Agba, who went back to Miami, I think he got 4 years, $64 million. So, Haason Reddick, $15 million APY average per year. I think that ranks in the around the 20s, like 16, 17 range. I think we're actually around there with pass rushers in the league, which is really good. But I think this is a heck of a signing. Of course, there's still more work to be done, but this is a great start, in my opinion, for the Eagles.
I do like the Haason Reddick move. I think it's a great move, but there is a lot of work to be done. What Darren's been asking a couple of times, getting Jameson Williams from Alabama to put with Devontae Smith. On paper, I like the idea. I do worry about another injured player coming onto the team. That always scares me. He got hurt in the national championship game. He really did a number to himself. But yeah, he's absolutely a stud. I mean, there's no denying that. But at this point, I think you need a proven player alongside Devontae Smith. I think you need a proven possession receiver in the NFL just to build Jalen Hurts' confidence so that you don't have to run the ball 35, 40 times a game. It was ridiculous. And that's why I also worry that no wide receiver is going to want to come here right now.
Yeah. And there's also been, reports that out there that, the Eagles did offer a similar deal than the Baltimore did for Marcus Williams, a safety, and he took Baltimore. So, they were in on, a couple of guys, and they just fell short. They weren't able to get the player. So, it is tough. But again, I still think that this is a desirable situation, but it all depends on the type of player. Like I said, you're not going to get a receiver that wants to be on a prove-it deal to be able to, especially, with Jalen Hurts and everything, unfortunately, because if they do what they did last year, run the ball, a heavy load, you're not going to get as many targets because you still have to feed Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and the running back on the backfield. So there's still players there that have to be fed. And how many targets is that going to leave for your number 2 and number 3 receivers? So
yes, Kirk, we said this earlier. 100%. I feel the Eagles should sign Julio Jones.
Only if it's a minimum deal. I'm not trying to sign it for 5, 6, 7, 8 million a year.
Right.
If it's 2, 3, okay.
But it won't be. Julio Jones is still too big of a name in this league. It won't be.
No, he's going to get something. Again, that's why I'm okay with a guy like a Zach Pascal or along the lines of that, or even like a guy like Marquez Valdez-Scantling from Green Bay. I'm okay with. I don't know
if he walks away now that he's got Aaron Rodgers back though.
Well,
and with all the stuff going on with Devontae over there.
Yeah, I know he wants.
Because even with Aaron Rodgers coming back, and even with everybody restructuring, they still can't lock this kid up.
Yeah. No, you're right.
None of them. If you put that list back up, none of them. The answer is none of them. I saw your graphic. None of them, because not a single one of those names is a game-changing player.
You're not going to get a ton of game-changing. The thing is, you're not going to get a ton of game-changing players. But again, all right, how many game-changing players when they signed them back in 2017, did you think they were game-changing players?
That was the
Probably not many.
entire team. Look, that was the entire team clicking together. None of these guys are going to be
Don't
a
know if I would
game-changing
say
player.
that. I don't know if I
Maybe,
would say that.
maybe a Chandler Sullivan or a Chavarius Ward. Maybe those guys alongside of
I think
a Darius Slay.
I think, you can get valuable players. And again, this is about also you sign some players, create some competition, create some depth. These guys aren't guys who are going to be $10, $15 million a year players.
No, none of these. No,
you got to fill your roster out. You can't.
You're right. And you can fill it out. You can fill it out with players that so if look, Kenny Young from Denver, Zaire Franklin from Indianapolis.
Well, Zaire Franklin
I would keep
signed, so he's
right
off the list.
I would rather keep Alex Singleton than any on this list because at least he's proven we know what he is.
I said these are under the radar guys. These are guys that are, this is like tier D of the free.
Yeah, you created the bag boy all-star squad.
Hey.
These guys are going to be bagging groceries.
The one guy I do like, Akilla Witherspoon he played at Pittsburgh, a long, lanky corner, can play press, certain little things. Not saying because if you get a guy like him and then you go and you draft a corner in the first round, then you're not pushed to start him right away. Maybe start him after a couple weeks into the season. So
let me ask this, because I think one thing that we need to establish as we begin to talk about this offseason is what are your realistic expectations for what you see this Eagles team doing right now? Meaning, a week ago, the NFC looked like it could be wide open, right? Because you had the Rams, they're obviously the top of the food chain. You had no Tom Brady. You had questions around Aaron Rodgers. You had a lot of question marks in the NFC. Now, Tom Brady's back. Aaron Rodgers is back. The Rams have only really lost Von Miller. They haven't lost a whole lot. There's a new big red commander in Washington. Dallas is actually losing players and has the whole Randy Gregory thing. They lost Wilson. What's the guy's first name?
Wilson to Miami.
That I think is a sneaky big move loss.
Amari
Cooper is gone. So do you see the Eagles as a non-playoff team, as a NFC East winning team, as a NFC competing team, as a wild card team? What are your realistic expectations for this Eagles team in this upcoming season, and what moves need to be made to get them there?
So if I'm taking a look at this team and this division, I think they do have a realistic right now, a realistic shot to contend in this division and be a wild card team. So I think you can be that. You can build upon that. There's still moves need to be made. The draft is still there, so there's still things that they have to do. They have to help themselves with the void of talent on defense. They need to. And we talked about it. They need to be able to, at every level, to be able to get some players. And again, this offseason, we're going to be talking about a lot because there's going to be trade rumors with a lot of the players. You're going to see a lot of different players come up in trade rumors. And there's certain players that, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing gone. Other guys, I would understand why they would be gone. There's a lot of different things that you can do to help build this team up. But you take a look at Washington. Yeah, Carson Wentz is the quarterback there, but does he really? No. I'm just saying. To me, that doesn't scare me all that much. And of course, if you look at Washington today, they cut their starting guard, Eric Flowers. They cut one of their mainstay defensive tackle, Matt Ioannidis, which there was something about him talking about how he was lied to, which that's never
that definitely had some news to it, and I don't think we're getting the full story. But none of the teams in the NFC. All right, so again, let's go team by team. Yep. The Cowboys, all they've done is gotten a year older and lost players.
Now, if you look at the Cowboys too, what have been the Cowboys' strengths over the last 10 years? It's been their offensive line, correct?
Lyle Collins gone.
Lyle Collins is on the trade block. They lost Connor Williams to Miami. They have questions at the guard spot, at the center spot. Right tackle is Terrence Steele. Tyron Smith usually misses a handful of games each year. That's a huge question mark. Plus all the players that you said that they lost. That's concerning, in my opinion. Very, very concerning.
The Cowboys only got a year older and lost players so far. There has not been a big splash yet. The Giants, their biggest move has been competition for Daniel Jones.
Tyrod Taylor.
So between the two of them, they still don't have a quarterback. And there's a lot of talk of them actually trading Saquon in this offseason.
Yeah. So the problem is the Giants are at a building stage right now. They're just trying to figure out what players they want to keep in the new regimen, and they're just watching.
And then you have the Commanders, who made a huge trade for Carson Wentz, who will now be throwing footballs to the Eagles again, which is so nice.
Yeah.
But talking about that FedEx Field, I would say that Carson Wentz gets through maybe 4, most at 5 home games before he is done for the year.
Not a good playing turf there. That is,
and if he's done for the year, let me be really clear. If he fails in Washington, he is done. His career is over.
You know, the funny thing is, I was listening to another podcast, and they brought up Carson Wentz's name, and they brought up another name along with it. He's the modern day Jeff George. And I said to myself, wow, that is actually pretty good comparison.
That's it. That's 100% it.
Heck, talent, look, has all the talent in the world. I
disagree. And I've said this over and over again. Carson Wentz went to a place in college where he knew he was going to be the king shit. He knew he was going to be successful. He was going to be the biggest fish in the teeny tiny ass North Dakota State pond. He gets drafted by the Eagles, and he's pretty good for a while. But Doug Peterson does not develop players, which is why I don't care how many people Jacksonville signs. He still doesn't develop players, and Press Taylor is the offensive coordinator. So then eventually we draft Jalen Hurts. He throws himself a little bitch fit. He gets himself traded to the only coach he was ever successful for in the NFL, and that guy boots him after a year. What does it say about you that the one guy who you allegedly were going to have success with is all of a sudden booted again?
Yeah, that's not a good look. And this is his last chance to be a starter, because if this fails, I think he'd go, I'm not saying if he keeps, playing his NFL career, because this is his last year of his deal, I believe. And
just the red on the red, like it's a lot of clashing.
But the other thing that makes it even more hilarious is Washington took his whole contract.
Oh my God.
And they gave away picks. So it's, the Colts are there. They're searching for a quarterback now, whoever that may be. But again, they got rid of that contract and they got some picks. So now we did fleece
on that. So on that aspect, right? By the way, Mr. Conaway, Don Conaway, would like to point out that it was him that said the Jeff George thing.
Okay.
He sent me a private little side text. So props to the Drunk on Broad boys. But here's the thing. On just the quarterback phase of it alone, Carson Wentz is an upgrade over Taylor Heineke.
Yes.
He is. But so was Ryan Fitzpatrick, who got hurt before the season. So how long until Taylor Heineke is QB1 again for that team?
Yeah. It's
I like the Eagles' shot better this season, but they're still missing some key components. Now, the offensive line comes back healthy. You have figured out a solution at right guard, I hope, for Brandon Brooks. I hope it's Landon Dickerson, plus you're getting Isaac Salamalu back. Like, you're getting a stud offensive line. Plus, there have been teams calling about Andre Dillard.
And calling about Nate Herbig. The offensive line issues. The offensive line
keep
issues
Herbig
in
for
the
depth.
NFL. Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. But Dillard, if you can get a day 2 pick for him,
See ya.
it's an absolute. And
it's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer.
And I don't even care if that day 2 pick is 2023 to add to your 2023 picks, because you have 10 draft picks already.
He was a bust.
So for me, there's a lot of teams that need offensive line help. Teams are calling. You can get rid of him and get a pick for him, because there is no spot for him if you have Lane Johnson at right tackle and you have Jordan Mailata at left tackle. He just sits on the bench. And it's really, if you can get something for him, you have to do it. And that's my opinion on that.
And you can't keep him on the roster just in case for depth. No. You can't do it. Like that doesn't work anymore. You cannot keep a first-round draft pick on the bench for depth. That's why a guy like Herbig, who can play the guard spot, who can hopefully never play the center spot again, he can play multiple spots. Andre Dillard has shown that he cannot.
Yeah.
Right? He's shown that he had to play left tackle because Mailata moved over to right tackle when he had the chance. 2 years ago, when he had the chance to be the starter, they had to re-sign Jason Peters. Like, this team missed on Andre Dillard. This team missed on Jalen Reagor. These guys are misses, and you have to embrace it, accept it, and move on from them.
So the whole Dillard thing, I deal Dillard. If somebody calls and, offers me a pick for Nate Herbig, I deal.
You can get another guy in the draft of the same caliber.
Listen, you have a coach in Jeff Stoutland that molds anybody into a great offensive lineman. So and remember, Sayamalo's coming back. Jack Driscoll, you have him. He can play right tackle or guard. Opeta, they like.
You've got some depth.
Coyote Awasika, they like. There's a lot of guys, younger guys that they like that I think can fill the void. If you can get picks for these guys, whether it be this year or next year, why not take them? Because teams are looking for offensive linemen so badly, because you watched what happened in the last 2 Super Bowls. If you want to really talk about it, the Kansas City Chiefs had a lot of bad offensive line play because they had to come backups in there. But again, bad offensive line play. And then this past Super Bowl, the Cincinnati Bengals had some terrible offensive line play. So again, there are teams out there that need offensive linemen. If you can get a quality pick for an Andre Dillard or Nate Herbig, I think you take it and you run.
I don't even care if it's a quality pick. Just get him off the team. He's not going to be a starter here. He's not going to be successful. I know in the long run you have to get something for him, but you also have to eat your crow here and be like, you know what? This pick was a mess up. I screwed up. It's not going to be that. But Johnny, this is the free agency show.
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask, as of 6 hours officially into free agency, who is the biggest winner in the NFL? And who is the biggest loser in the NFL thus far?
Ooh. I'm going to look.
See, we don't. While Johnny starts to look up an answer for himself, we don't prepare each other when we have these conversations. What you are watching right now on the weekly report is literally just a conversation between 2 Eagles fans and 2 football fans. So just keep that in mind.
So I had an answer in mind, but I just want to check something before, just to see. Texans signed a lot of players. Not that they were any good. I'm not going to say that they won. I'm going to go right now. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. And
okay,
the reason I'm going to go with them right now, you can go with Jacksonville because they signed all the top players and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, I'm going with Jacksonville for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to go a little off, and you get Marcus Williams, the top safety, and you get Zadarius Smith, who comes back to Baltimore as an edge rusher to pair up with Owa. And to me, Baltimore, even getting these defensive guys, plus they also got Morgan Moses at right tackle, who's going to be a heck of an upgrade over Alejandro Villanueva, who retired. So right there, those 3 signings are pretty pretty good signings for that team to be able to, because and the other thing is they had so many injuries last year. And I think for them getting these 3 pieces, plus they're probably going to add some more stuff. I think it helps their roster out and, makes them, a contender. And I think it makes them into a top contender in their conference, because if Lamar Jackson's healthy, I think they're better than Cincinnati. So there's my reasoning.
So I have to go Jacksonville as my biggest winner, because you had a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence who I do not think the world of, but if you give the kid enough pieces, maybe. Having a guy like Doug Peterson as your coach, the kind of offense he's going to run is going to be a pass-heavy offense. So what do? You get one of the best offensive linemen in football on your team in Brandon Sheriff. Then you go out and get a really stud tight end in Evan Ingram. Then you go out and get a really stud wide receiver in Christian Kirk. I mean, they added players onto their team that made them infinitely better right away.
So the interesting thing with Jacksonville that I will, they tagged Cam Robinson to left tackle. So their number 1 pick, they may not go offensive line.
Again.
Where do they go? And that's the thing is this is set up for them. If Trevor Lawrence is the quarterback everyone thinks he is, they can contend in that division.
They can go out and utilize this defensive heavy draft with their first round pick.
Don't get me wrong. They had a very good first week so far. I guess I'll call the, whatever, legal tampering or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it. Who had the worst first week of free agency?
The worst first week.
I mean, I have my answer. If you'd like me to go first while you contemplate.
I have mine. So
all right, then go ahead, sir.
I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay.
They lost Chandler Jones to Las Vegas today. They cut Jordan Phillips. They cut Jordan Hicks. They lost Chase Edmonds, who I think is a better running back than Connor, who they re-signed. They're having some issues with Kyler Murray.
Christian Kirk. You forgot Christian Kirk.
You lost Christian Kirk. AJ Green's a free agent. There's a lot of issues going on with them.
You may not have a starting quarterback.
Yeah. He may go play baseball. The A's are rebuilding, so you never know. But I think they're kind of an under the radar loser right now in the first week, just because they just re-signed a couple of their own players. They haven't signed any free agents yet. Zach Ertz got $10.5 million a year. A lot of money. But
because he wasn't done. I am still angry that the Eagles got rid of him. He wasn't done, and Dallas Goedert wasn't ready to take the throne. It wasn't the nice little transition between Brent Selleck to Zach Ertz, from Chad Lewis to Brent Selleck. It wasn't ready for that yet. Dallas Goedert is not the same caliber of player that Zach Ertz is.
It's fine.
Yet.
It's all right.
I'm not cool with it. I have a problem with it.
Who's your loser?
Mine's Dallas.
Ooh, okay.
Mine is Dallas because, as we've already mentioned, the loss of offensive line players, the loss of safety valve wide receivers in Cedric Wilson, the loss of stud wide receivers in Amari Cooper. They really got nothing back for him. The Randy Gregory thing is what puts them in my loser camp. I mean, besides the fact that they're the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
But what's starting to show is the cracks in the Cowboy empire. Right? You were so close to getting back a guy like Randy Gregory who had questionable behavioral past. And because of the wording in the contract, he goes, screw this, I'm going to go elsewhere. At the 11th hour? Yeah. Amari Cooper, news starts to break of issues, and he's traded within 24 hours. I think Dallas is definitely a team that, you've got some really good players, right? You've got your Dax, and you've got your Tony Pollard's because I think he's the best running back on the roster. You've got your CeeDee Lambs and your Blake Jarwins.
Dalton
But you have
Schultz
questions on the offensive
franchise and Michael Gallup. And
yeah, you've got some guys, and that's great, but you haven't gotten better yet. Now, defensively, Micah Parsons is still a monster, and they're going to keep building around him. But so far, everything that has happened out of Dallas's camp has made them a worse team than they were when they ended the season.
Yeah, and that's good. Good news.
They have not made one positive move yet.
Kirk had a question I wanted to bring up. How much cap space the Eagles have next year? So next year, right now, it shows about 40 million or so. That number is definitely going to change. The cap's going to probably go up, so there'll be money to spend next year. So there's no worrying with that. I don't think you're going to have a situation like you had last year, where they had to do a whole bunch of things just because of the COVID year and the money and aspect. And I don't think that's going to happen. So they'll be fine. There'll be more money added. And there was I think it was actually by Kirk as well. He asked about how come the Eagles aren't making more cap room. The only thing that they can do to make cap room is extend Slay and Hargrave, and that'll give you an extra $21 million for this year. So that's really the only two moves, which I expect at least one of those guys to get an extension. I'm thinking Hargrave gets an extension, especially if Fletcher Cox is no longer on the team after June 1st, because that's the only way you're going to get rid of him, which we will get into in later shows on why that is. But no, first week of free agency so far, Eagles got a pass rusher. There's still talks of, getting other people. I'm excited. So I always love free agency. The draft's coming up. There's a lot to talk about. Again, I don't know. We may be back next week because if the Eagles have some more moves, off-season time, it gets pretty hectic right now. So if the case, hopefully.
Hold on. I still want to pick your brain on stuff. I have so many questions.
Oh,
here's another one. We're gonna go to the quarterback factory now that I have my Wi-Fi a little bit boosted, since the kid is off of Fortnite and I actually have signal now. A little signal thief. The big drama has been, where will Deshaun Watson end up? Do you have a prediction right now before it happens?
Now, I saw this come out.
Oh my God, what have you prepared for us?
I don't,
absolutely not.
I love Barrett Brooks, but I don't.
Me too.
This is right. So that's my thought on that. My thought on where he goes, I posted it earlier today on Twitter. I think it's Cleveland, in my opinion, because they are set up the best. I don't know how New Orleans and Atlanta sets themselves up with the cap situations that they're in. And
New Orleans is already in cap hell.
Yeah, I don't know what they would do. People are suggesting they would trade, offensive tackle who they just restructured, and it makes no sense. Cleveland makes the best sense. They have $16 million in cap space. Baker Mayfield, they're going to get rid of. That's $18 more million they're going to have. So they have the money, the means. They have the trade package. They have the young players to be able to trade. I think they are the most logical destination for Deshaun Watson.
I do not see Deshaun Watson ending up on any team in the AFC for a couple of reasons. Number one, Houston doesn't want to face him. And number two, Deshaun Watson doesn't want to be in the loaded AFC right now. The AFC, especially at the quarterback position and the young quarterback position, is stupid talented right now. You've got Patrick Mahomes, you've got Burrows, you've got Herbert, you've got teams like Tennessee who don't have a great quarterback, but they definitely have a great team. I mean, the AFC right now is an absolute just wrecking ball crew of teams, whereas the NFC is a little more open. You've got aging teams with success. You've got the Rams who went all in to steal a Super Bowl this season. I agree with Anthony that it's going to be the Panthers or the Saints, and I think he ends up as a Panther because they do not have a quarterback on that roster. And I think as part of the package together there, Christian McCaffrey goes to Houston.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. But Carolina, I think, would be the number 2 right behind there. I don't think Atlanta or the Saints. I just don't know how feasible it is, but I'm just waiting for this to be over because
Same.
I'm kind of sick and tired of listening to all the talk on where he's going and who he's getting here. And he's not interested in this team and not interested in that team and this and that. And just because my feeling on it is this trade is holding up so much other stuff.
I agree with that.
That's supposed to be going down. Yeah, you're still seeing some signings. You're still seeing all this stuff going on in the league, but I feel like this is holding up a lot of other things in the league right now. So once it finally goes down, hopefully it's within the next 24 to 48 hours, we get this over with. But I don't know. It's just it's an interesting amount of teams. He's looking to win, but I don't really know if that's the case because some of these teams, they don't make much sense if they're getting rid of a whole bunch of assets to then acquire him.
So we also need to talk about some of the quarterbacks that have gone places. Free agency has picked up a little bit for some of these quarterbacks that should not still be in the NFL. For example, Nate Sudfeld just re-upped in San Francisco.
He's the best deep ball thrower. Come on.
Shut your face. Chase Daniel just got paid more money again. I think I saw somewhere that he every career throw that he has in the NFL is worth $575,000. Every individual pass.
That is terrible.
Chase Daniel. He has literally fleeced people for money all these years. I truly don't get it. But one name that cycles back every single off season. You're smiling because you know what I'm going to say. Where will Colin Kaepernick end up this offseason?
I'm going to say Seattle. I'd like actually to see him in Seattle.
I'm sorry. The correct answer is nowhere.
I think he's probably better than 75% of the backups that are in the league.
Okay. Here's what's about to happen because here's the deal. Colin Kaepernick has been out of the league for 5 years. He has been out of the league longer than he played football in the league. He has been longer removed away from football than he was when he actually played because he had a lot of those seasons where he actually was hurt and didn't finish the season. He ran routes with players on an open field, no defense, nothing to read. So cool. He can throw a ball. So can I. I can throw a ball too. Most of the throws he actually had were, if you looked really closely and actually critiqued it rather than just going, Colin Kaepernick should be back in the NFL. Most of the throws that he threw were high and the wide receiver had to make a catch to go get it. Colin Kaepernick has not had to read a defense in 5 years. Colin Kaepernick might be in the best shape of his life, but that doesn't mean that he can play NFL football. If you look back, the closest thing that I can compare it to is like a Mike Vick who missed football for 2.5 years and took a whole season to really get back. You can even say Doug Flutie missed NFL football for all those years before he came in and did everything he did with Buffalo. But the problem is that Doug Flutie at least was playing Canadian football. He was at least playing arena football. Kurt Warner was at least playing Canadian arena football. Colin Kaepernick has not done any of those things. And Anthony, I agree that he might be better than Chase Daniel, but we don't know. At least Chase Daniel has been in NFL film rooms for the last 5 years. Colin Kaepernick has not. Colin Kaepernick, my issue with Colin Kaepernick is that 2 seasons ago, he said, I am a starting quarterback in this league. And he started listing the starters for the teams. If he is not willing to take a slice of humble pie and ride the bench until it's his shot and he regains the NFL speed, he cannot be in an NFL locker room. He is not worth the distraction that he will be for coming back. Colin Kaepernick will not be on an NFL team this year if he has not changed his mentality of I am still a starting quarterback after being removed for 5 seasons.
So my question here
is back in.
If Colin Kaepernick signs with a team, now, you know what? Let me pull it back because I want to give my take on this.
Okay, do you want the full screen?
you can do whatever you want. So if you have a guy, now I know there's circumstances with it, like Tim Tebow. I know he wasn't a quarterback, but he played baseball for how many years? Then he came and went and signed with his former college coach, Urban Meyer, with Jacksonville. And, I don't think he deserved to even be in the league, yet he got a chance to be in the league. Why doesn't Colin Kaepernick at least deserve a chance to be in the league? Not saying that he's going to make the roster. Maybe he doesn't have it anymore. But if he isn't given the chance, you'd never know. And I think a team like Seattle, what do they really have to lose? Yeah, you have Drew Lock there, but again, you don't really have much to lose. If he shows and he plays somewhat decent. Now, I know he's been in the league for 5 years. I understand that. But if he comes in like a la Michael Vick, get your body back into shape and then, playing a few games here and there, and then he's ready to go. He's 34 years old. I know he's older, but there's not much mileage on him. And I think he just deserves a chance. I think he
Why?
was I think he was wrongfully basically blackballed. But I think he deserves a chance because if you go to a team like Seattle, lets him compete, like I said, I think he deserves a chance in the league because he's better than most of the backups that are even in the league.
I agree. So to me, he was never a great quarterback. He was an incredible athlete, a great winner, and was on some really good teams and led them to the Super Bowl after Alex Smith did a lot of the work to get him there as well. Then he got hurt and he started going downhill. He actually lost his job to Blaine Gabbert. Let's not forget that. He lost his starting job to Blaine Gabbert. So before he starts comparing himself to all these backup quarterbacks that he's better than, he lost his starting job to Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, but that was also Chip Kelly's team.
Sure.
Just
Totally
saying.
agree. But it was still a lost job to Blaine Gabbert.
And that was after everything, that happened as well.
He has been out of the league for 5 seasons.
So here, his last season when he was benched,
2016.
Yes, he went 1-10. That was his QB record. 59% completion percentage isn't great, but 2,200 yards, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 90 passer rating.
Cool.
Sacked 36 times in 12 games.
Right. It was bad.
They stunk. They were a bad football team.
Sure. And that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was 5 years ago.
So 5 years later, all he's gotten is 5 years older.
But again, you also didn't like when the Eagles signed Jordan Howard.
But Jordan Howard had still been in the league. The two are not the same. Jordan Howard has still been in the league.
I understand he's still in the league.
And playing quarterback in the NFL is a lot different than playing running back in the NFL. Running backs are interchangeable, as we saw this season, where you had Miles Sanders, where you had Jordan Howard, where you had Boston Scott. You need a star quality quarterback. Colin Kaepernick is an older NFL old player. To get him back to NFL speed is not reasonable without 1 or 2 seasons. And again, Anthony, I agree. He definitely was better 5 years ago than Chase Daniel, Dwayne Haskins, and Mason Rudolph. 5 years ago, Colin Kaepernick was definitely better than all of those guys. But Chase Daniel, Dwayne Haskins, and Mason Rudolph have all been in NFL film rooms and on sidelines and working with coaches for the last 5 years. Colin Kaepernick has not.
Like I said, I think he's going to get a chance. I think he deserves a chance, and I think Seattle's going to be that chance. We can argue
not if they trade for Deshaun Watson.
They're not trading for Deshaun Watson. They're not. So, like I said, it's going to be the Browns, like I mentioned, and you mentioned Carolina. So that's not Seattle. But like I said, it's crazy offseason. Quarterback carousel.
I'm done with this crap.
Quarterback carousel.
My vein popped on Colin Kaepernick. You see
But-
that thing?
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. We're gonna have a lot more fun conversations.
I realized we hadn't had a solid like chip venting explosion session in a while, and I needed to do it. So I thank you.
Well, just wait until the Eagles draft a punter. Then we'll have another one for you. So,
No. I'm okay with that because you know
Oh.
what? Aaron Sipos was not the guy. And we saw when we got rid of Cam Johnson, I was right.
He's off
2
steroids.
years ago, I tweeted out, I said, listen, I know it's a lot of money that he just signed for. But and it's a position that people don't necessarily want to put a lot of money into. But if you have a bad punter, it affects it. It affects your game plan. And Aaron Sipos had a good start to his season. But let me tell you something. He struck out big when it mattered.
You know who I want? I'll tell you right now.
Hecker.
We can end it with this. They don't draft one. I would love for them to sign the recently released by the Rams, Johnny Hecker, 4-time All-Pro.
I just said it. Hecker. I knew it. I agree. I love it. I'm here for it.
No. But with that, brings our first free agency show to a close. There's going to be a lot of fun this offseason, a lot of stuff going on. I know the Eagles are going to make more moves, so don't worry. They may have a trade or two in there. There's going to be a lot of fun to talk about. The draft coming up. So this offseason starting to roll a little bit, and we'll be here to break it all down. But with that, we end every show with the 2 words, Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Exciting news from our friends at Manscaped, who just launched their 4th generation performance package. This ultimate package includes the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Manscaped, the leaders in male grooming, have done it again to make your grooming game next level. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with the new Performance Package 4.0 by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBIRDS. The Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped has arrived, and oh man, it was worth the wait. Inside this package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. First off, the new Performance Package 4.0 includes the new Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is insane, and dare I say, the greatest ball trimmer ever? Yeah, I said it. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multifunction on-off switch, and can engage a travel lock. And it gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when you need a more precise shave. Oh, and did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? You thought that was good, but want to take your grooming game even further to the next level? The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker to chop your worst weeds up top in your nose and ear. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. This nose and ear hair trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. Seal the deal with Manscaped's liquid formulations, their Crop Preserver ball deodorant before leaving the house, and Crop Reviver ball toner for a mid-game ball check. Trust me when I say this, fellas, your balls will be thanking you. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort and boxers to another level. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBIRDS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code AATBIRDS at manscaped.com. Your balls have been through enough this past year. Treat them with the best tools for the job with Manscaped. Your balls will thank you.